I'm here today with Filson Thomas, who is actually a friend and a partner with Swiss Leaders Group. He's based in Connecticut, USA, close to New York. Welcome, Filson.
Hi, Joel. Great to be here with you and the audience.
Sure. And what I'm really amazed with you is that on one end, you are a very professional, experienced executive. But on the other end, you spend a big part of your time actually being a leader in the community, in many volunteer work that you do in different circles, and being a wonderful family man. And often we maybe see those two things as being detached and not connected, but you believe that those two come together under the name servant leadership. That's how I know you. People, many executives in the business will think, yes, but I'm not running an NGO. I'm not running a community service. I have a business to run. I have results to deliver. I have money to make. And my employee just have to follow my orders. So do you agree?
Well, great question. And that is a perspective most people have when they hear about servant leadership. The assumption is where you're running the prisoners run the prison. But of course, it's a lot more than that. You know, if you look at the Forbes list of happiest company to work for, and if you look at the top 100 companies, what you will see is most of those companies spend millions and invest millions and train people on the servant leadership. And the reason they are the happiest company to work for is a practice of servant leadership. And what that does in turn is people are so hardworking, they are committed, they're willing to go extra mile, and it brings greater return to the company. In fact, recently I was listening to an investor, and he said when he looks for investment, he goes through the list of Forbes 100 happiest companies. And he looks at the return those companies bring, and he picks companies from there, and that's why he brings most of his investment into. And even now, and I was talking about that at the time of this crisis that we are going through right now, he said closely monitor these companies, and that's why he's putting his money in. And he says the quickest turnaround, the biggest return he's expecting out of these companies. And by the way, that's what I'm doing too right now. I'm looking at these companies because think about it. The company that treats you well, where you find sense of ownership come into that. You bring a sense of ownership into it, and you work really hard because you want to be as successful as possible. And as you become successful, your company becomes successful. There is more into that game, the sense of pride that comes in. And that's what servant leadership does.
Wow, this is really, really fascinating. Often we see companies saying, you know, serve the shareholders first, the client second, and as Richard Branson is saying, serve the employees first, and they will serve the clients.
Classic example.
Yeah. And somehow the shareholder would be served too, and other stakeholder. So very, very
that's what servant leadership is all about. Awesome.
Great.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit how it works. I mean, is it just like trusting everybody, just giving them the complete freedom and they make whatever they want?
Well, no, it's a lot more than that, right? So because you're running a business, and when you're running a business, if you give someone certain responsibility, you also hold them accountable for that. You cannot give anyone a responsibility without holding them accountable. If you set up that structure where there's somebody owns certain thing and someone else is accountable, it's doomed to fail, right? So your structure allows you to do that. So, but as a servant leader, what you do is you go extra mile. You, as a leader, you cast the vision, you cast the purpose, you give them the goal that they need to accomplish. But then once all of them is given, you also empower them to make certain decisions. Depending on the level they are in, you empower them to make decisions. And as they make certain level of decisions, you hold them accountable. All right. So one classic example is Southwest Airlines. They're big on servant leadership. And Southwest Airlines is a big, one of the, in the US, they are huge airline company. And out there, even in the front line, those who are in the ticketing counter, they are empowered to make certain level of decisions. And when they make decisions, company backs them up. But then company also holds them accountable. And that certain level of freedom they got is because of that whole concept of servant leadership. They were trained, they were empowered, and they were held accountable. And because of that, they can be sure they make the right decision.
Wow, so, very, very interesting. Now, I'm just a bit intrigued. I mean, does that work with everybody? Can we trust everybody and just give them the key of the house?
You know, trust is a very interesting word, right? So I was recently listening to Simon Sinek, and he was talking about US Navy SEALs. This is the top Navy they go after in the most dangerous situation. And they're talking about there are two levels of trust. One is a trust which is given to everyone at a starting point where it's for you to lose it than to earn it. We will trust you with it. But then there is a second level of trust. And the second level of trust is what US Navy SEAL says, can I trust you with my wife and my life? That second level of trust has to be earned. The first level of trust is for you to lose. John Maxwell, our mentor, always talks about when you meet people, you put 10 on their head, right? You put 10 on their forehead and you treat them as a 10, number 10. If you treat them as number 10, they will behave and act as number 10. And that's the opening level of trust that's coming in. But then from there, if they don't act it, they're going to lose that trust. And you have to take the corrective measures or coaching or whatever needs to be done to build them up. But then as they gain that trust, you slowly move them into the second level of trust. So servant leadership is not blindly trusting them with the keys to the kingdom and just go. No, that doesn't work. As a starting point, and you hold them accountable, and they have to grow and earn the next level.
Wow, really, really amazing. Just before we go, just tell us in a few words, how does it feel to be a servant leader? It seems to be quite hard work.
You know, let me rephrase that question for you. Imagine if you're working in an environment where all your employees are happy, how will that feel? And more than that, imagine if you're in an environment where all the people are excited to work. Do you think your workload will be more or less? Right? So what servant leadership does is it builds that sense of ownership in the life of people. They get excited. At that point of time, you got a lot more fun and joy in that company. And also a lot more people taking ownership and responsibility for things. So at that point of time, your role is more of a coach and a cheerleader and allow your people to flourish. And as people flourish, your company will flourish. And so will your stakeholders.
Wow, this seems actually almost like fun, like a real pleasure, happy team, happy family, while reaching even greater business results and goals.
Yeah.
Wow,
more than happy. It's more like excited ownership.
Right. Great.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Filson, it's always very exciting to speak to you, and come back anytime on our show. It's a pleasure to have you. Look forward for our next discussions.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.